is the CPT. Level 2 is the HCPCS book. Okay. That was something I wanted. Okay. Okay. Okay.
So that's right here on page, chapter 1, general coding, correct coding policies, that's where you read it,
Yes. Okay.
page I-5.
Thank you.
Sorry. There are certain things that when we go through here, we talked about unbundling. Okay. So, and they, page I-11, they give examples for surgeries. Okay, there's, the first one is pretty straightforward. For marionotomy, okay, you have to have access to the tympanic membrane through the external auditory canal. Removal of impacted cerumen from the external auditory canal is not separately reportable. The next one causes a lot of problems for doctors, or it used to. So a scout bronchoscopy to access the surgical field, anatomical landmarks is
Where are you?
page I-11, under surgical number 2.
It's constant bronchoscopy.
Okay, a scout bronchoscopy to access the surgical field, anatomic landmarks, extent of disease, etc., is not separately reportable with an open pulmonary procedure, such as a pulmonary lobectomy.
So would we have to look these things up?
Well,
Chapter 1.
that's kind of why I'm pointing them out now, is so that when we get to these things, page I-11 of this. Okay, so that when we get to the specific codes and we start talking about diagnostic procedures versus therapeutic procedures and the different open versus laparoscopic routes, you'll have a better idea of what's allowed and why. So I'm on point 2. By contrast, an initial diagnostic bronchoscopy is separately reportable. If the diagnostic bronchoscopy is performed at the same time, at the same patient encounter as the open pulmonary procedure and does not duplicate an early diagnostic bronchoscopy by the same or another physician, the diagnostic bronchoscopy may be reported with modifier 58 appended to the open pulmonary procedure code to indicate a staged procedure. A cursory examination of the upper airway during a bronchoscopy with the bronchoscope should not be reported separately as a laryngoscopy. Okay, so remember, for those of you who were here last week, we talked about staged procedures. And the part of the key to this is what part of the key of what they're saying is it's separately reportable with modifier 58, the staged procedure. But so when you write your note, you have to write that you did the diagnostic procedure to make a decision. And based on that decision, that patient was coming, you would do one of multiple different things. If the language is not there for the decision making to set up different stages. You can't put the 58 modifier on there. So if you just talk about doing a diagnostic, that you inserted the bronchoscope, and you noticed a polyp in one of the lungs, or something in the lungs, and you removed it, then because you didn't talk about the staging and the decision making, the diagnostic is out, and only the therapeutic can be used. It's important that when you're going to use modifier 58, or you're going to code 58, that you need the language in there that you made this, that there was a decision made.
So you need decision language.
Yes.
1258.
In order to use 58.
58.
Okay. And let's see, the last one, the first two are straightforward concepts. Whenever you're going to get, whatever you have to do to get access to a site is not separately reportable. Even if it's surgical, if you have,
Can't unbundle.
right. So what you do in those cases, in the case of number 3, where you're doing a colectomy, but you run into just a ton of adhesions, and you've got to remove them.
So lysis of adhesions in this case.
Right. So when you write up your surgical report, that's modifier 22, I believe. So if you look in Appendix A, that should be modifier 22. Which,
Increased procedural services.
right. So what you're doing is you're writing to the insurance company
In the workers.
explaining why this colectomy
Oh,
was so much harder than a normal one. That
It shouldn't be bundled.
right, that, well, no, you're putting it out, you're still not unbundling it, but you're putting it on the surgery code, explaining why it's so much more, and that's why you're billing for more, and that's why you should be paid for more.
It is in with the time of the anesthesia, right? You get more time to do the procedure, you need to add.
Well, the anesthesia time keeps running.
Right.
But what we're talking about is the surgical procedure for the colectomy. So
Right.
the doctor goes in, he's
Mm-hmm.
pulling out all the adhesions. Say it normally takes him an hour. This time it takes him 2.5 hours. He writes all of that up, why it took him 2.5 hours and why he needs to be reimbursed for his time. And then he uses the regular surgical code, puts modifier 22 on it. And if you're going to submit modifier 22, you might as well drop it to paper because you're going to have to send a letter in explaining why.
Okay.
So you're going to have to put your report in saying that this is, these are the usual extensive or the circumstances.
Extenuating circumstances.
Thank you.
EM service.
Okay. Surgical package, I don't remember specific questions about the surgical package. Let's see. Um, okay. I mean, some of this stuff is just common sense, and we'll get to it. Page I-15, an excision and removal, and they put ectomy, includes the incision and opening, the otomy of the organ. So you should not report the otomy portion, just the ectomy portion. Let's see. If,
Okay. So this is all the ways things can be unbundled.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Oh.
let's say you're doing a laparoscopic hysterectomy, and the laparoscopic approach fails, you convert it to an open hysterectomy, you only bill for the
Open.
the
Open.
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, E&M, we went over, this is how E&M, okay, we remember when I talked about, last week I talked about global days. And I mentioned that there were 0, 10, and 90 global days. So this talks about the global days.
Page, please.
Sorry.
I-16.
I-16. I'm just kind of scanning in order.
Bottom of I-16.
Okay. So let me.
This is clear as mud. Jesus Christ. I'm reading this going, so MMM or maternity, that much, that makes sense, MMM.
Yeah,
or maternity, so there's a clue.
Yeah, the X, Y, and Z. The ones to really pay attention to are the 0, 10, and 90. The X, Y, Z, and M, they can relate to other procedures, and so you get the global from those. If you've got a 0 or 10, they consider a minor procedure. If it's a 90-day, it's considered a major procedure. The big thing to remember with this is any E&M during these global days
It's bundled.
is bundled. You can report it with that code, 99024.
For the 90?
So if, let's say, Lazaro does, let's say I've got lung cancer, and he does a lobectomy on me. That would probably be a major procedure. I would assume that would have a 90-day major, okay? So I go back to him for follow-ups during these 90 days. All of those E&Ms are bundled in. Can't charge me for them.
You just want the last for the 90.
But the initial one, it says here, if an E&M is performed on the same date of service as the major surgical procedure for the purpose of deciding whether or not to perform the surgical procedure, that E&M service is separately reportable with modifier 57.
Yeah, decision for surgery, yes.
Okay, so decision for surgery is,
Decision, so, okay, let's go over the whole package. should work, it doesn't always work this way. Okay. So we have op, pre-op. Sorry. And we have post-op. Okay. So pre-op, there should be a decision for surgery. So we have 0, we have 10, and we have 90. These are the minor, this is the major. So there should be a decision for surgery. So you have an E&M modifier 25 for minors. If, however, it's a major, you've got your E&M 57. Then you have one E&M in either case subsequent to the surgery. So subsequent to the decision to surgery, so after the decision for surgery is made, you get a free E&M. The doctor does. Or actually the patient, because the doctor loses the money. If it's on the same day, that's where these modifiers come in handy. So let's say I have, well, the lobectomy is a good example. Unless he needs to remove it right then and there, which usually a lobectomy you can take a day, usually.
Depends if it's a malignancy. They
Yeah.
get a frozen section back, that's going that
It's
day.
on time.
Okay, let's move it to kidney stones.
Okay.
Let's go into kidney stone. That doesn't have to be removed immediately. Okay, so a kidney stone, and I don't remember which, believe me, it feels like this, but it may be that.
Yeah, I know what it feels like.
Yeah, I don't know how many, I've had a number of them. So when you get one, you can schedule you for surgery, and it may be several days. They'll just hand you some narcotics and say, come to the hospital in a week. And so you still code out the E&M with the decision for surgery. But if the doctor sees you on a related to that surgery, especially the date of the surgery, and it's related to that surgery, that E&M is now bundled into the operative part. Okay, and then any E&M that's follow-up to the surgery within the global days, okay, however, there is, I don't remember what it is now. Modifier 24. That's an E&M for reasons unrelated to the surgery. Unrelated. So I go in to get a kidney stone out.
And you develop CHF.
Yeah, develop CHF, or in my case, I had very bad panic attacks because I wasn't supposed to take my sedatives that day, and so I'm laying on the gurney waiting to go in, and this is the first time my parents really understood what panic disorder was. So I'm hooked up, and they're watching my breathing, they're watching my heart rate. the medical staff is, but so is now is my mother. And she now sees it just shoot up and then drop back down. So the doctor has to come in and evaluate me to see what's going on. Now, because that's not related to the
kidney
surgery,
stone.
to the kidney stone, he can charge for that E&M with the modifier 24.
And you're going to use the 9090
Oh, no.
024,
The code
No,
for
no,
the,
just
the
the-
code for the complication.
the complication,
No,
no,
the-
no,
no,
the complication, the visit.
This would be a different, this would be,
Like consultation.
For the
Like a-
panic attack?
no, for the E&M, for this one, you would use,
Consult.
that would probably fall under observation, initial and discharge
Oh, okay.
on the same day. That one code's weird, but my point is that if during this whole thing, the patient comes to you for something other than this, what the surgery was done for.
99024 is a post-op follow-up visit, normally included in the surgical package to indicate that an evaluation and management service was performed during the post-op period for reasons related to the original procedure. So the
Yeah.
992024 is the E&M
Surgery.
that's reported saying this is part of the global
That'll-
package.
Yeah, so, yeah, this is just, this is what I'm talking about being in the post-op. This is the E&M post-op, and that's all it is. When you actually see one of these notes, it's very different from other E&M notes, because all they'll talk about is the patient is making expected progress or the patient is not making expected progress. You don't get the exam. This is just a post-op E&M. If something comes up, like the panic disorder, or like they have to treat someone for the flu or sprained ankle or whatever,
And it's in the hospital, it would be a hospital code with a modifier 24.
24.
or if it's during the post-op period and it's in their office, then it's an office visit with the modifier 24. Okay, because what we're doing is we're using this to signal the insurance company that this isn't bundled into any of these periods, the pre-op, the operative period, or the post-operative period. Okay,
614.
and then just
And
to,
we use that code for minor or major procedure.
99024 is anything,
Mean, okay.
Global package.
anything that's
Okay.
included in the global period.
okay. So, one last thing to tie this whole concept of the global package, of the global period together. 54. All right. So, Adriana's our hotshot surgeon. All she likes to do is slice and dice. Ernesto is a PCP, internal medicine guy. He likes to take care of people. All right, so they work out a deal. He'll do all the medical management, and you just show up and cut. Now, the way this should be correctly coded is, since you just did the cutting, you use the surgical code with the modifier 54. Because he's doing the medical management, he's doing the pre-op work, he's doing the post-op work, he uses the surgical code plus modifier 55 and 56. No, what this does is it splits the period.
Oh, okay.
She gets the payment just for the surgery. He gets the payment for the work that would go into the pre-op and the work that's required for the post-op.
That's 56.
So what it does is it splits the code basically into 3 different periods. That's why, so that, like I said, Adriana, all she likes to do is cut. Medical management is done by Ernesto, and that happens pre and post. And he handles all of this work, so he should get paid for it. So that's why
So that's the only way it's unbundled.
it's not really unbundling though. If you take 54 plus 55 plus 56, you get the global,
Yeah.
okay? So if Adriana is only charging for 54 and Ernesto is charging for 55 and 56, they're not unbundling or overcharging for anything.
I get it, but supposing I'm the surgeon and I'm doing it all. No,
Then
no, okay.
then that's out. I'm just saying that if you can have these kinds of arrangements
It's a team.
where
Team of doctors.
a team of doctors,
Yeah.
you're the internal medicine guy, you like to manage the care.
So no modifier if I'm doing the,
Yeah, if you're doing it, but you know, you like to be sitting there just on the ready and go in, do the appendectomy, go in, colectomy, go in, heart surgery, go in,
no decisions, just go in and do it.
Just go in and do it and leave all of the handling of the antibiotics, the post-op, all of those arrangements for rehabilitation and medications and all of that gets left to someone else. That's how you split it up. And it's by period. Okay. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
It does until we start getting questions. Makes perfect sense until you give us the homework.
Yes. You're right.
And then it's like, what? What?
Okay, okay, so, but that should also help kind of, understanding 54, 55, and 56 should also help clarify the operative and the fact that there are 3 elements to it. In those elements, there's different aspects of the work, and that based on the aspect of the work, you can code differently, such as the 99024 versus an E&M with a modifier 24, or such as the decision for surgeries, E&Ms. Okay, so we went backwards to modifiers. But it was necessary to understand the whole surgical spiel. Whew. All right, so we need to get moving. Okay,
A lot of modifiers in this.
there are a ton of modifiers.
In this,
Yeah,
in surgical.
the majority of modifiers are surgical modifiers.
Staged.
So, okay. So I'm gonna jump back to the CPT book because I kind of need to get back into actual surgeries at this point. Because what time is it, anybody?
11:30.
11:30. Oof. Okay.
That means that. We are okay or we're
It means
behind.
not good. Oof is not good.
Oof means uh-oh. Yeah. So more.
Oof equals another plan.
Oof equals I'm gonna be teaching more classes.
Well, it took a lot of time to go over the homework.
We did, and I hopefully you all feel like you've gotten good information. I mean, I know some of it is extraneous, but at least now, part of what happened when she introduced me to those the Pub 100 stuff, the IOMs, and told me how to go through, and I started to understand how to go through the Medicare websites, is that I could start kind of pacing myself versus pacing with the class. And when we first proposed doing this, and understand I say this because I have no life. I have, my family lives far north of here. I have no kids, I'm not dating anyone, I just go home and I either work or clean or... So I end up doing a lot of research. And so when we first started doing this, I turned to Linda, because I was trying to pick out, how often should we meet, how many classes should there be, and I said to her, I need to remember that they're not me. That you have lives, and significant others, and children, and things you do for fun. Whereas what I do for fun
Is this?
is this.
It's very sad.
So when I said that, it wasn't.
You need to go to a cruise. You need to go to a cruise.
To do something for this guy.
It wasn't meant as a derogatory term. It was meant as I get a very OCD on these kinds of things, and so I will dig in to the Pub 100 on my own for my own curiosity. Now that you all know, you can at least ask me, hey Jeff, can you go to Pub 100 and get this for me? And I will. But if you want, you can go there and if you have a question that you just want to look up to find more specific answers on this stuff. Okay, so we kind of went over the surgical package. Understand that there are two definitions of surgical packages. Medicare's is far more complete than the AMA's. It's far more comprehensive. Both of them will tell you that
You're on page 62 of your CPT book.
62.
Yep. Okay.